is implicated in this crime. Then turning to me, he said authoritatively, तो बताया ना. Poirot took them from him, read them, scrutinized them. उसने लेटर पे पढ़े, right? Now he said, let us proceed to get our facts clear and in order. The first of these letters was received by a wife shortly after her marriage to you in America. भाई ये तो लेटनर अमेरिका से थे ना भाई. पहले लेटर जो आया था जब आप अमेरिका से वो आपकी शादी हुई तो आपका लेटर मिला. There had been others, but these are destroyed. The first letter was followed by a second. A very short time after the second arrived, you both had a near escape from a coal gas poisoning. You then came abroad, and for nearly 2 years, no further letters were received. बस सेकंड के बाद कोई पोल हाँ मिलने को मिला. They started again at the beginning of this season of your season here. That is to say, within the last 3 weeks. Is that correct? Absolutely. Your wife displayed every sign of panic, and after consulting Dr. Rayleigh, you engaged Nurse Nitherin here to keep your wife company and allay her fears. Yes. Certain incidents occurred: hand tapping at the window, a spectral face, noises in the anteroom. You did not witness any of these phenomena yourself? No. In fact, nobody did except Mrs. Lydna. Father Levigny saw a light in the anteroom. Yes, I've not forgotten that. He was silent for a minute or two, then he said, had your wife made a will? I do not think so. Why was that? It did not seem worth it from her point of view. Is she not a wealthy woman? Yes, during her lifetime, her father left her a considerable sum of money in trust. She could not touch the principal. After that, it was to pass to any children she might have, and failing children to the Pittstown Museum. फादर ने क्या किया, एक विल बनाई. फादर के पास खूब पैसा था, एक ट्रस्ट में डाला, तो प्रिंसिपल को वो टच नहीं कर सकती थी. हाँ, तो जब उनकी डेथ हो जाए तो उसके बच्चों को, और अगर बच्चे नहीं है तो फिर पिट्सटाउन म्यूजियम को, कोई म्यूजियम को. Poirot drummed thoughtfully on the table. Then we can, I think, he said, eliminate one motive from the case. It is, you comprehend what I look for first. Who benefits from the disease's death? In this case, it is a museum. Had it been otherwise, had Mrs. Lydna died intestate, but possessed of a considerable fortune, I should imagine it would prove an interesting question as to who inherited the money, you or a former husband. But there would have been this difficulty, the former husband, क्योंकि भाई किसके पास जाएगा पैसा, ये तुम्हारे पास के former husband के पास, would have had to resurrect him in order to claim it. अगर former husband को जाएगा तो उठो बहन उठो. And I should imagine that he would be then in danger of arrest, though I hardly fancy that the death penalty would be exacted so long after the war. These speculations need not arise. As I say, I settle first the question of money. For the next step, I proceed always to suspect the husband or wife of the deceased. In this case, in the first phase, you are proved never to have gone near your wife's room yesterday afternoon. And in the second place, you lose instead of gain by a wife's death. And in the third place, he paused. Yes, said Dr. Lina. In the third place, said Poirot slowly, I can, I think, appreciate devotion when I see it. पहली बात तो तुम तो मिस डॉक्टर लाइडनर क्यों साफ किया, भाई तुम अपने वाइफ के पास थे नहीं. दूसरी बात कि तुम्हें तो लॉस ही होना था अगर बीवी गई तो. तीसरा कि मैंने डिवोशन जो है मैं देखता हूँ. I believe, Dr. Lightning, that your love for your wife was the ruling passion of your life. It is so, is it not? Dr. Lightner answered quite simply, yes. Poirot nodded. Therefore, he said, we can proceed. Here, let's get down to it, said Dr. Riley with some impatience. Poirot gave not be impatient. In a case like this, everything must be approached with order and method. In fact, that is my rule in every case. Having disposed of certain possibilities, we now approach a very important point. It is vital, as you say, that all cards should be on the table. There must be nothing kept back. Quite so, said Dr. Rayleigh. That is why I demand the whole truth, went on Poirot. Dr. Lightner looked at him in surprise. I assure you, Mr. Poirot, that I've kept nothing back. I've told you everything that I know. There have been no reserve. Thought the me, you have not told me everything. Yes, indeed, I cannot think of any detail that has escaped me. He looked quite distressed. Poirot shook his head gently. No, he said. No, he said. You have not told me, for instance, why you installed Nurse Lutheran in the house. Dr. Lidner looked completely bewildered. But I've explained that it is obvious. My wife's nervousness or fears. Poirot leaned forward. अम्मा मतलब ये कि मैं पोयरो ने कहा कि भैया तुम अपनी बीवी के साथ तो बहुत डिवोटेड थे, तो ये थे। फिर रायली ने कहा कि देखो आप आगे बढ़ते हैं बात, तो पोयरो बोला नहीं नहीं नहीं, अभी पूरा मेथोडिकली बात करते हैं और सारी चीज़ें क्लैरिफाई करते हैं। फिर पोयरो उस पर गुस्सा हुआ, डॉक्टर लीडनर पे, और बोला कि अभी आपने सारी चीज़ें नहीं बताई हैं। तो डॉक्टर लीडनर बोले क्या? बोले पोयरो ने बोला भैया ये आपने नहीं बताया है कि आपने नर्स लीथरन को घर पे क्यों रखा, रीज़न क्या था। भाई एक्चुअली में लॉजिकल है बात, भाई आपके पास 2 बारी थ्रेट्स आ चुके थे, लेटर्स आ चुके थे, भाई लेटर तो किसी ने लिखे होंगे ना। दूसरी बात कि एक गैस पॉइजनिंग का भी केस हुआ, फिर 3 हफ्ते पहले आपके पास लेटर्स आए, तो भैया मामला तो सीरियस था, ठीक है ना। Dr. Liedner looked completely bewildered. But I've explained that it is obvious. My wife's nervousness or fears. Poirot leaned forward, slowly and emphatically wagged a finger up and down. No, 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 no. That is something that is not clear. Your wife is in danger? Yes. She's threatened with death? Yes. You send not for the police, not for a private detective even, but for a nurse. आपने पुलिस को नहीं कांटेक्ट किया, प्राइवेट डिटेक्टिव को नहीं कांटेक्ट किया, बट एक नर्स को बुलाया। इट डज नॉट मेक सेंस दैट आई डॉक्टर लेडनर स्टॉप, द कलर रोज इन हिज चीज। आई थॉट ही केम टू डेथ स्टॉप। नाउ वी आर कमिंग टू इट, पोयरो एनकरेज्ड हिम। यू थॉट व्हाट? डॉक्टर लेडनर रिमेन्ड साइलेंट. He looked harassed and unwilling. See you, Poirot's tone became winning and appealing. It all rings true what you have told me, except that why a nurse? Nurse के पीछे क्यों गए तुम? There is an answer, yes. In fact, there can only be one answer. You did not believe yourself in your wife's danger. आपको विश्वास ही नहीं था कि आपकी बीवी खतरे में है. And then with a cry, Dr. Ledner broke down. God help me, he groaned. I didn't. Poirot watched him with the kind of attention a cat gives a mouse hole, ready to pounce when the mouse shows itself. What did you think then? He asked. I don't know. But you do know. You know perfectly. Perhaps I can help you with a guess. Did you, Dr. Ledna, suspect that these letters were all written by your wife herself? आपको ये सस्पेशन था कि आपकी बीवी ने ही ये लेटर्स लिखे हैं खुद? There wasn't any need for him to answer. The truth of Poirot's guess was only too apparent. A horrified hand he held up as though begging for mercy told its own tale. डॉक्टर लीडनर का हाथ उठा और वो माफी सा मांगने लगा. I drew a deep breath. So I had been right in my half-formed guess. तो नर्स लीथरन ने कहा, रे मैं तो सही निकली. I recalled the curious tone in which Dr. Ledner had asked me what I thought of it all. I nodded my head slowly and thoughtfully and suddenly awoke to the fact that Mrs. Poirot's eyes were on me. Did you think the same, nurse? The idea did cross my mind, I said truthfully. For what reason? I explained the similarity of the handwriting on the letter that Mr. Coleman had showed me. Poirot turned to Dr. Leidner. Had you noticed that similarity? Dr. Leidner bowed his head. Yes, I did. The writing was small and cramped, not big and generous like Louis. But several of the letters were formed the same way. I will show you. From an inner breast pocket, he took out some letters and finally selected a sheet from one which he handed to Poirot. It was part of a letter written to him by his wife. Poirot compared it carefully with the anonymous letters. Yes, he murmured, yes. There are several similarities, a curious way of forming the S, a distinctive E. I'm not a handwriting expert. I cannot pronounce definitely, and for that matter, I've never found two handwriting experts who agree on any point whatsoever. But one can at least say this: the similarity between the two handwritings is very marked. मतलब पोयरो ने कहा कि भाई लेटर्स जो थे वो जो उसकी बीवी ने मिसेस लीडनर ने डॉक्टर लीडनर को लिखे थे और जो ये जो लेटर्स थे उनकी हैंडराइटिंग बहुत ज़्यादा सिमिलर है. It seems highly probable they were all written by the same person, but it is not certain. Probable यह है कि सेम आदमी ने लिखा था, पर certain नहीं है. We must take all contingencies into mind. He leaned back in the chair and said thoughtfully, there are three possibilities. First, the similarity of handwriting is pure coincidence. हो सकता है कि भाई आप handwriting मिल गई pure coincidence. Second, that these threatening letters by written by Mrs. Ledner herself for some obscure reason. मिसेस लेडनर कोई रीजन के कारण खुद को ये लेटर्स लिख रही थी. थर्ड, they were written by someone who deliberately copies her handwriting. Why? There seems to be no sense in it. One of these possibilities must be the correct one. He reflected for a minute or two and then turning to Dr. Ledner, he asked, with a resume of his brisk manner, when the possibility that Mrs. Ledner herself was the author of these letters first struck you, what theory did you form? भाई जब ये हो सकता है कि मेरी बीवी ने ये लेटर्स खुद ही लिखे हों तो आपके दिमाग में सबसे पहले क्या गई थी? डॉक्टर लेडनर shook his head. I put the idea out of my head as quickly as possible. I felt it was monstrous. Did he search for no explanation? Well, he hesitated. I wondered if why in brooding over the past had perhaps affected my wife's brain slightly. I thought she might possibly have written those letters to herself without being conscious of having done so. That is possible, isn't it? He added, turning to Dr. Rayleigh. Dr. Rayleigh pursed his lips. The human brain is capable of almost anything, he replied vaguely. But he shot a lightning glance at Poirot as if in obedience to it. The latter abandoned the subject. The letters are an interesting point, he said, but we must concentrate on the case as a whole. There are, as I see it, three possible solutions. Three? Yes. Solution one, the simplest. Your wife's first husband is still alive. He first threatens her and then proceeds to carry out his threat. If we accept this solution, our problem is to discover how he got in without being seen. ठीक है, मैं हो सकता है उसकी बीवी का हस्बैंड लाइव हो, उसने अपनी वाइफ को फॉर्मर वाइफ को थ्रेटन किया और आया और मारने के लिए तैयार हो गया. Solution number two. Mrs. Leadner, for reasons of her own, reasons probably more easily understood by a medical man than a layman, writes herself threatening letters. The gas business is staged by her. Remember, it was she who roused you by telling you she smelled gas. But if Mrs. Reedner wrote the letters herself, she cannot be in the danger from the supposed rider. We must therefore look elsewhere for the murderer. We must in fact amongst the members of his staff, yes, in answer to a murmur of protest from Dr. Leidner. That is the only logical conclusion. To satisfy a private grudge, one of them killed her. That person, I may say, was probably aware of the letters, or was at any rate aware that Mrs. Leadner feared or was pretending to fear someone. That fact, in the murderer's opinion, rendered the murder quite safe for him. He felt sure it would be put down to a mysterious outsider, the writer of the threatening letters. A variant of this solution is that the murderer actually wrote the letters himself, being aware of Mrs. Leidner's past history. But in that case, it is not quite clear why the criminal should have copied Mrs. Leidner's own handwriting, since, as we can see, it would be more to his or her advantage that they should be appear to be written by an outsider. Oh, interesting. The third solution is the most interesting to my mind. I suggest that the letters are genuine. They were written by Mrs. Leidner's first husband or his younger brother, who is actually one of the expedition staff. मतलब मिसेस लाइडना का पहला हस्बैंड या उसका यंगर ब्रदर इस एक्सपीडिशन में है और उसने ये लेटर्स लिखे थे।